Think we're here? Yes, we good. I'm going to let you chatters tell me. I think I've got a good picture today. But it is Tuesday. We're live. And this is Trekland HQ. And it's our big 250. A look back and a look ahead. Ask me anything, Star Trek. Yes. Today on Trekland Tuesdays live episode 250. Hey, everybody. Yeah, the for real 250. Someone will let me know how we're looking good. Thank you, Christoph. Here we are. Whoosh. Well, this has been a week, hasn't it? For a lot of us and for a lot of you, it is so great to be here with my one and only live stream show now. If you want to see Dr. Trek and Trekland, this is the only place you can go for the time being. I say that because, yeah, what a big week. But most of all, for real, it's our 250th episode of Life Support Live. We're on all thrusters here. We're going to have an Ask Me Anything today. As I said, look back and look ahead, but I've got a couple of cool little surprises for you if you bear with me. And we will keep our kind of normal routine. I am going to take a little midway break and do a little bit of the parent analytics. But we're going to be looking at chat all day long here. So I'm going to be taking your questions. But I'm going to do something I did not plan to do when we first conceived today, the 250th. I want to say a couple of things about a couple of things. Number one, yes, what an awesome week this has been. Discovery wrapped up with some choice moments. I do want to say that. I am very excited about the virtual TrekCon that happened over the weekend. What an amazing there, Ryan and Sirach and Dr. Anne Marie and everybody. I'm going to leave folks out. Melissa and Mohammed and all of the gang over there. And what a thrill it was for them to unleash the LA&P Awards, the Lappy Awards, and especially what a fun thing it was to jump over and do an awards show after show, reaction show, which I think may have been a first in Trek fandom. We didn't exactly know what that would be like, but we all had a kick. John Champion and Charlene Schmidt and Brie Bulkey. We all had a lot of fun. And if you didn't see the awards show, which had tons of surprises, lots of celebrity guest appearances, my hat is off to them for organizing all that. It's over at the Virtual TrekCon YouTube channel. And the after show is at least at the Roddenberry Entertainment channel. Probably at Virtual TrekCon too by the time it's all said and done. Anyway, had a lot of fun. The award show went on nearly 2.5 hours, I think, 3 hours. We went on about 2 hours or a little over. Had a lot of fun Sunday night. So yes, Picard keeps drawing an audience, still keeps feeling like in its skin. And part of that weekend at Virtual TrekCon was, I'm just going to say it was kind of a bittersweet moment, but it was the right time. It was the finale, if you didn't catch it, the finale for right now of our Life Support Live show. Normally I would plug this every Tuesday at the end of the show and let you know what was going on, but there will be no more weekly Life Support Lives. Dr. Ali's family is growing. My life seems to be getting crazier. We took it on for the pandemic, and but we had a wonderful finale show. Had almost all of our lifers with us. We had a lot of audience from Virtual TrekCon because they made us a bit of that, and Ali and I got to do it live. So that's on at where you're watching me right now. You can check out and watch number 88. The finale for now, because we'll be around at live cons and we're going to do some special live streams every once in a while. Maybe even an old school, bring your own media watch along the way we used to do it. So yes, it's been a huge week. And now here I am back with you on Tuesdays. No broken parts. We seem to be firing on all thrusters. But it was also the week of the season 3 Discovery finale, which almost seems to have gotten lost in the shuffle. With Picard building up, this overlapping of shows seems like I'm having flashbacks to the 90s here when DS9 and Voyager would drown each other out at times, or just split the audience. Or so I had thought until the last Discovery aired for the season. And lo and behold, there's Stacey Abrams playing the President of Earth. A little on the nose, but still that's awesome because she is a huge Star Trek fan. everything good about Star Trek inspired her to do the political work that she does. She is a progressive icon, a progressive lion, and has done a lot about registering people to vote, which is all part of what the law should be and what democracy should be. And of course, it's political. She has opponents, and apparently some folks, as could have been predicted, her Star Trek cred though cannot be challenged. She was involved in election year bits. They involved Star Trek in helping get out the vote, helping raise money, and it goes beyond politics. She's just a good old thing. She was a big fan of Kate Mulgrew and Captain Janeway as a young girl growing up, of course. So that's all been in the zeitgeist, and then was part of the political establishment that reached out to Star Trek, where most of the Star Trek folks lean that way politically. And power to them. It's been that way on all sides with celebrities forever. What's been fun though has been almost the predictable, and I would expect it, the predictable pushback about that. How dare you have cameos are one thing and celebrities are one thing, but how dare you have a political animal like that, and so on the nose, as if portraying that the progressive ideas are what dominate. Well, I'm not going to make this into a political platform, but look at the words progressive. What's the opposite of progressive? Regressive. If you regress, then you go back to the Middle Ages, you go back to the Stone Ages, you club each other, and it's a dog eat dog world. And that's supposedly not what civilization is all about. It's finding a way to keep the best of us and provide for more and more of that. So I don't want to get into it too deep. What's been interesting is a couple of the other pushbacks that are a little more nuanced than that. One is from a lot of you all, from a lot of folks who are fans around the world, who I think it's almost a testament to how well Star Trek is doing now. Because look, the original series in the 60s, no one had a thought that there would be reruns for 50 years, much less that other people around the world would be enjoying it and watching it and caring, much less anybody beyond the English-speaking world. And, to be fair, nobody in America knew about Doctor Who unless you were just a really, really the top 1% of sci-fi media people, which was a rare breed to begin with anyway. So it's been kind of interesting to watch, to be reminded of how universal Star Trek has become. And some of that's been the Kelvin movies really went global for the first time. Everything else has been for the American and Canadian market. And then everything else is just fodder. It's just gravy. It's just icing on the cake. Yay. Until the last 10, 15 years. And now casting is done with an eye in mind, especially to global reach. That's really more true of movies than it is of series. Although with streaming, especially now, we're really seeing a globalization of streaming. But it still is not driving casting decisions, and much less writing decisions. So it was interesting and fun. And maybe some of you in the chat today, and by the way, I'm going to do this. This is a very short platform today before we hit this. It was interesting to see so many people be a little indignant. Lost would be too wimpy a word, but I think, yeah, frustrated and indignant that how dare Star Trek spring a cameo on you that the whole world didn't know. So I just want to step back and say, well, it is still as much of a universal following as Star Trek has, and as much as we try to be global at times. I say we, especially the series, are still pretty much made for an American audience, even though I'm going to say the global audience is a fourth or a third of all the eyeballs they're going to see current Star Trek. Of course, it helps if you have stable platforms to get it out to you on. I totally understand that. And if the mouse ever roared out of its mousehood, it was, of course, after the big debacle over Paramount Plus with Netflix that we just had a few months back. So if anything, that shows what the passion is and what the voice will stand up and demand. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. I hate to say it's still an American show, but it's still an American show, and that's not to be culturist. It's just kind of the money facts. But having said that, nobody is like Star Trek when it comes to trying to think globally. So if there'd been a German politician or a British politician or something, we had the Jordanian king, and nobody in America knew who that was until the trivia bots 3 months later came out and got it to you in your every 2 months communicator magazine. No one knew that that was Crown Prince, of Jordan, much less now King Jordan. Um, yes, that kind of thing has happened. Maybe not so overtly. What's more predictable, though, is the outrage from people who are saying we got back into the old Star Trek was never meant to be political. Why is Star Trek being political? Yada, yada. And then we get the pushback. Well, Star Trek has always been political. And then we get into the bit about, yeah, but that was always metaphors and allegory. And it wasn't so on the nose. You were just supposed to reason it out when they were making a themed parable that they want to apply it to in our own time, whether that was the 60s or the 80s or whatever. And I that's pretty much true, but can I just remind everyone there are a couple of moments, and I know there are more. I mentioned this on our finale for Life Support Live. There are a couple of moments that spring to mind immediately from the original series. You know, that metaphor allegory laden little series that had so much censorship in the 60s, no one could get anything on the nose past the censors, right? Standards and practices. There was a little episode called, I don't know, it's one of my favorites, The Doomsday Machine. As Kirk and McCoy are interviewing the distraught Decker here when he's still in shock, and Kirk is putting it together and says they're talking about what the Doomsday Machine must be, the parallel. And Kirk says, Bones, did you ever hear of a Doomsday Machine? And of course, McCoy says, no, I'm a doctor, not a mechanic. And Kirk says, it's a weapon built primarily as a bluff. It's never meant to be used. So strong it could destroy both sides in a war. Something like the old H-bomb was supposed to be. Something like the old H-bomb was supposed to be. That's what I think this is, a doomsday machine that somebody used in a war uncounted years ago. They don't exist anymore, but the machine is still destroying. Okay, now we're tied back into the story, but he's right there. It's a 20th century thing. The doomsday clock, the doomsday machine built, never meant to be used until somebody used it, and that could be cataclysm. That could be doomsday. But even better, a little show called Private Little War. When Kirk and McCoy find themselves in that history lesson once again, and McCoy gets to play every man of the 23rd century. Kirk says, Bones, do you remember the 20th century brush wars on the Asian continent? Asia's a big continent. This fits for many wars. Two giant powers involved, much like the Klingons and ourselves. Neither side felt they could pull out. So in case by now you hadn't got it that the Klingons were cardboard fill-in villains for the Russians, there's your proof. A Gene Kuhn era episode, by the way. And McCoy says, yes, I remember. It went on bloody year after bloody year. Kirk says, what would you have suggested? That one side arm its friends with overpowering weapons? Mankind would never have lived to travel space if they had. No, the only solution is what happened back then. Balance of power. And they're reflecting on the 20th century. And apparently by the 23rd century, by Kirk's time, there was no better solution invented than what happened. So not to get into the mechanics of the moment and what they're debating, but there's two examples right there where Star Trek was not all about allegory. Sometimes they gave you the allegory, the metaphor, and then they told you what the allegory was about. So that happens more or less, in the 80s. For the other side, if you want to say that, although at the time it seemed to be unanimous, now since we've had lots of regrets about it. Don't forget about Nancy Reagan's Just Say No and the little scene specifically written into where Tasha gives Wesley a Just Say No lecture. It's very 1988 sounding for 2364, but there you go. Today we would wince at that it was so simplistic and by the box, but there you go. Nancy Reagan, I mean, come on, not Stacey Abrams. So I'm just going to answer that once and for all. The old motif here, however it rears its head, about Star Trek being not it's set 400 years in the future. People 400 years in the future don't sit around and debate Congress and Parliament and Bundestag and Duma decisions. They pop up as historical spikes and throwbacks and lookbacks. Yeah. Caesar, Hitler, Lee Kuan. They are us, and they do remember the highlights of history. So yeah, that was this week's kerfluffle like we haven't seen. It's almost like Michelle Paradis and everybody on Discovery wanted to make sure that Discovery didn't go quietly out the door, even as Picard was building and building. So just in case. And they certainly didn't want the finale for Live Sport Live to steal all the media thunder spotlight. No, 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 we're not going to do that. So that's just a thought. As I say that, let's see what's going on. Let's see what everybody says. This is truly going to be a celebration of 250. Yay! Celebration of 250. Ask me anything. So maybe I stirred something up there. We will see. We will see. So if any of you saw Virtual TrekCon, any of the aspects, whether something I was involved with or not, they had a lot of good programming. We're about to hit a stretch here, a stretch run of a lot of interesting news coming, a lot of events coming up. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And by the way, as we hit this, I want to remind and tell everybody about two things I will throw in the pot. Speaking of it, coming up, we're doing it warily. I think it's a trust but verify. And the week I was away, we went to see a musical, fully masked, with having to show not only a vax record, but your booster shot included, at a small community theater up Northern California. But then also 3 days later, back at a resort, big restaurant where no masking was suggested, where most of the staff was masking. Some of them weren't, and almost nobody pulling through except people of Asian heritage. And mothers with kids seemed to be wearing masks. Everybody else was pretty much mask-free. So I hope we don't pay for that. I know we're watching that around the world right now in several places, Europe, China, watching what happens with the future pandemic. But I would like to think that we're on a slow, bumpy ride back to normal. And that's why I have been making noises about reopening some very special Star Trek film tours, and even our own homegrown day tours that I call Trekland Treks. So we've got a couple, I think, on the board coming. But even more than that, if you're going to Trek Vegas this year in August, remember the later date, just a reminder that if you are headed your way to Vegas, come a day early and take a day trek out with Geek Nation Tours and Terrace and I, out to the Valley of Fire. It will be, since Trek Vegas is 1 day shorter, they've gone back to 4 days. So this day, pre-con, the con eve day, is Wednesday, August 24th. So if you can stretch your schedule, check it out, geeknationtours.com. It's just a 1 day, but it'll be about 6 to 7 hours. The Valley of Fire, the Kirk Memorial Tour, as I call it, where we'll go to the film site of Kirk's death in Generations and some other surprise moments, and a lot of cool natural history and wildlife and rock formations along the way, as well as your dose of Star Trek. We've done that 4 or 5 times. It's always a lot of fun. I think we need 6 people to make that work. So think about that if you're headed out that way. Also, from the house of Trekland Treks, I announced this Saturday. Right now, we're still putting it together, but I want everyone to know that the tour that we announced last year and held back for COVID is back. And I mean, it's the Great Birds Origins Tour, the Gene Roddenberry Centennial, tail end of the Centennial Tour. It's going to be 2 days, adjoining his birthday in August 20th, 21st. And yes, this is the weekend before Trek Vegas and the weekend before that 1 day Valley of Fire tour, before all that. So if you can get yourself to LA, we have a deal at the Hollywood Roosevelt for a cut rate hotel rate. I will tell you all about that, what's involved, but we are really what it says. It's 2 full days in Los Angeles on the vehicle appropriately sized, retracing the life that led to Star Trek. Gene's early boyhood homes, his family, his career with LAPD, where he was married with both families, where he worked, LAPD, and some of the studios where he worked. Just things that tie into Gene's life. And of course, that will include a Paramount walk around too. So if you're excited about that, let me know. I had it all priced last year. I'm having to rejigger things right now. But we can now this year have it on his anniversary weekend. And maybe it's a lead in to you who are traveling to Vegas, or not, if you're just coming to LA, or of course, if you're here. The hotel is an option if you want that, if you have your own place. But we do have a deal, a really good deal with the Hollywood Roosevelt. I just got in place last week. So that's what's happening as 2022 bears down. Meanwhile, let's see. It's our 250th episode. Can you believe it? Let's see what everybody's up to. It's so good to see everybody. So good to see everybody here. And if you're new, hey, we're looking for questions as always, even more since it's actually an AMA, not to be confused with the American Medical Association. Thank you all for showing up for our 250th. I'm just curious, who in the chat, can we have an early off? Who in the chat has been following me on Tuesdays Live for the longest? You know, we only had 88 episodes of Life Support Live from the pandemic. That was kind of fun, seeing who went back the furthest. And for, you know what, for those of you who are a little, no, let's look at this for a minute, and then I'll spring my other surprise. But thanks everybody for the good wishes. I'm seeing some new folks here today. That's great. Nick Layton, hi. Are you new with us? Are you new for Tuesdays? If so, yay. Well, if either way, yay, and thanks for joining us. Let's see. Is that what I said? This is the 250th episode of Trekland Tuesdays Live. Yes, I hid 170 episodes of LSL from you, Jared. Yes, absolutely. No, Trekland Tuesdays Live. It's what the sign says. It's exactly what the sign says. And yes, Cairo, you are correct. Tomorrow is the European midday edition for the Portales of Portal 47's Ask Dr. Trek Day. So, yeah. Oh, Linda, thank you. No one had any idea. We were all winging that. It's like, okay, we're going to talk about the winners and the nominees, and we got the list like at 6:30, a half hour before. And I was on the road. I was driving. We were having dinner. I couldn't watch all the awards, so we got a recap really quick. But it went well. It went well. I'm glad everybody had a good time. We certainly did not know we'd have such a good time. How long can you talk about some of those? Some of the categories were really ingenious, and some of the categories we felt compelled to reframe, call foul on, but it was all in good fun. It was all in good fun. I know you have been with us before, Marcello, but hello, and tell me where you're coming from. Are you coming from across the pond? That would be awesome. Let's see. Okay, I am looking. Yes, Christoph, I'll give you direct yes on that. And we are still in the 1 hour. Yes. Did you notice I had it advertised correctly today? We'll do the same thing for tomorrow. Hi, Dave. I've been seeing you hanging around Trekland more and more, so thanks for that. Thanks for that. Let's see. Well, Cairo, I think most celebrities and politicians who say they're a Star Trek fan are on the center progressive side. Ted Cruz says he's a Star Trek fan. Maybe someday they'll be able to figure. Maybe he can be the successor to Gorgon the Friendly Angel and be really friendly. Oh, I don't know. I'll be interested to see what you have here. Curious to hear what you say then. Yeah. Hey, Jesse. My gosh, look at this. Everybody's here. 250. I know. You think this is something? Wait till we have our 5th anniversary celebration in a little bit. 5 years. 5 years. Hang on that thought, though. I've got something coming up in just a minute. I'm going to take a break in a minute after we do some hellos here. Let's see. Oh, hey, Brian. Thank you for joining us. I think you've been with us before, but it's an actual question. You realize the TOS stories by James Blish were based off of early episode scripts. Do we know why he didn't have access to more screen accurate scripts? It was just timing. Now, it was timing and the fact that nobody cared. Nobody thought about it. I mean, gang, think about this. It was 1966. Nothing moved quickly. There wasn't even faxing. Okay? If you wanted paper to get from the West Coast to the East Coast, and that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about LA and Publishing World in New York, and then James Blish was in the UK. So think about the sheer time scale involved in getting things around. Now, the first book deal, 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 down the line. I mean, I've never thought about this, but the minute you ask this question, I know exactly what the reason is. Part of it was people got a script and sent him a script. And somebody along the way, whether it was somebody in the offices, in the beginning especially, somebody in the offices or somebody at the publisher or somebody with his office, with him, thought, oh, it's a draft script. How different could it be? Number one, it's the same thinking of no one's going to notice that. When Richard pointed out to Harv Bennett that Chekhov wasn't on Star Trek when Khan was in Space Seed. It's part of that. Now, we've come a long way since then, and we're all hyper-vigilant about details, and even then things sneak through. But at the time, it was just a do the deal, get it done. I mean, look at the artwork for the cover, right? They're licensing things, they're licensing blonde-haired Uhuras and wrong color Spock shirts, and the whole thing. We laugh about the coloring books and the novels and the Gold Key comics. So yes, at the time. Now, when Star Trek got popular and they finished out the run, I'm not so sure. I know a lot of those first season scripts were that way, especially with Balance of Terror and we'll go on down the line. But in the beginning, it was just get the scripts, mail them to New York. New York probably mailed them to James Blish. That was days and days and days. And if they'd waited, even if they'd waited on final drafts, there are scripts that Lincoln Enterprises sold for. They sold the Space Seed script. If you ordered Space Seed script from Lincoln for years and years and years, you still got the one with Thor Heyerdahl or whoever the Norse. It wasn't Khan Noonien Singh. It was an earlier draft when it was still the Viking character. So it was the 60s. Things moved slow. People did not heighten the detail. And I think that evolved as the books went along. But that's it. It wasn't a snap your fingers and I'll email you the PDF. Yeah. Gotta. I know it blows your mind now, right? It does. Thank you, Jared. Look here. Boom. For those of you already missing Life Support Live, April 9th will be the first post LSL Zoomy chatty thing. Is that Saturday? That's Mission Chicago weekend. I do know that. Very true, Stephen. 2022 will be the biggest year of Trek ever. Kind of scary. Well, there's 1 less hour 2 hours they have to knock around every week. Here's some foreign news. Thank you, Christoph. Prodigy will hit Nickelodeon in the UK and a few other countries in Europe and elsewhere, other continents in April. Alrighty, there you go on the legal upfront version. Okay, you guys are debating the German politicians, and I'm going to stay out of that because I will not. Scott says, even if you don't know who Abrams is, she's at the very least a relatively young woman of color shown as the president of Earth, and that alone is pretty damn cool. That's true. And remember, everybody, way back in 1986, when Reagan was president, there was going to be, 1989, when Poppy Bush was president in the United States, the original intention was to show a Mount Rushmore carved with a black woman president among the other 4, so that somebody of the likes of Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Teddy Roosevelt over the next 300 years, who happened to be a black African-American woman, was worthy of Mount Rushmore status. They scrapped it for time. They couldn't get it done in time. So who knows? Now, of course, Stacey Abrams' character is the 32nd, 33rd century president of Earth. So that's not quite canon. But it was not unheard of. And it was not unheard of way back in the 80s to posit that. So to hypothesize that. So there you go. And yes, Joel, this hit me just as I was about to go on. I was still worrying about the tech this week. Happy 91st to William Shatner. My goodness. It's, yeah. Cairo, I don't think that's, I know you, and I know you're pretty Star Trek aligned with your thinking for the most part. So I don't think anybody's trying to tell you goodbye. You're supposed to be a German that does, or an Austrian that doesn't even know who she was. Remember? No, we could. This is also. This will make a very good conversation fodder for tomorrow. Absolutely. It was, except there was no banner that came out at the beginning and said, "And now for a Star Trek about the Vietnam issue." No one came out and did that because it got past, for all the hoo-ha about standards and practices censors in the 60s, it got past them. And yes, the plot of the Bluegill aliens was about the Iranian-Contra affair. I never heard that. Maybe someone's tried to apply that. I don't know. See, Christoph, don't say this too loudly because you'll blow about 4 billion brains over on this side of the pond. Calling American Democrats conservative. I know. There you go. Shout out to Steve. There you go. Do I think, hey, JRR24, do I think some new Star Trek series will have their own Ukraine? Could be. I think what's happening now is the current series are so, when Picard and Discovery were unspooling after the pandemic started, aside from this whole, it's a whole year to write and then a whole year to film it and then a year before you see it. It's like a year and a half to 2 years when someone started writing a story before the audience can react to it with this whole streaming model now, with the app model. And there's a danger of things, because if they're too on the nose and too topic oriented, there's a danger of things becoming old news. God, I hope the Ukraine situation, the Ukraine invasion, and I hope that the pandemic are old news within a couple of years. It was amazing how Discovery season 3 hit home with people, even though it had been written with no intention of mocking a pandemic that was a year away when it was written. So, but this is true, or the tragedy of Ukraine in a bully aggressor will go into the tapestry. Ali's not here. The tapestry of Star Trek stories that talk about those kind of issues, because sadly, over the long span of human history, these kind of situations don't go away. Right. Wow, Cairo, some U.S. conservatives are way too far left for you. That's interesting. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Well, that's it. It's good for conversation. One thing I have not ever found about you, Cairo, is that you are not an unreasonable conversant. Things can always stay civil. Okay. Let's see here. Christoph says Austria is bringing back masks to more places by tomorrow, shifting over to COVID times. It's very, very frustrating and annoying for people who are already exhausted globally with all of that. Maybe you should have a Valley of Fire birthday this year. Sure. Fine with me. Let's see. Hey, Dwight, you wish that the provincial government here in Canadian Ontario wasn't so relaxed about pandemic rules. Disturbing to see massless people on either side of the retail counters. I know it's a very edgy thing, but it's people are judging a virus by human standards. Any human who is dragging on for something for 2 years, who has no hope of finally coming or going, would be looked at as being pointless. But a virus is not a person. Viruses are not, viri are not people. Soylent Green is people, but not viri. Uh-huh. Cairo, I never doubted it. I never doubted it. Did I say something about heart health? I'm not so sure. Okay. We're gonna have to change the Twitch channel is gonna have to drop the life support live. We'll have to see what I have to do about that. Alrighty. Questions. Oh, funny enough. Well, Cairo. There you go. Don't say anything, everybody, but we're also looking to offer an LA Away Days pre-made trek for the day before everybody leaves on the cruise next February. So if you're going to cruise in 2023, you might want to come a day or two early if you weren't already. And part of your jetting around LA can be, because they're leaving LA this next year, not from the East Coast, not from Florida. So part of your itinerary can be taking a day trip with me on a pre-planned. We'll have a group, that kind of thing. Hi, Jim. Glad you could join us. Yay. Hey, JR, you didn't come aboard until Virtual Trekland. Yeah, that was I'm glad you're here too. That was obviously pandemic. That was 3 years in here for us. Okay, now we're into that, huh? Wow, Stephen, I think you have been. You've been here for an awful long time. Yeah. Why haven't you gone yet? No. Right. This is exactly. And boy, are my arms tired. I did all of that. Yep. Well, good. Glad you could make it, Melanie. I've been here all along. Yes. But thanks, everybody. Thanks, sir. Oh, thank you for that. I was kidding, but I was also trying to be analytical. I was totally shooting in the dark, and I wasn't accusing anybody of anything. I was laughing on our reaction show. We were wanting to know how many total people voted for those awards, because they were put out randomly across the word was put out as far and wide as could be had. So I just was saying that because Seventh Rule is a little obviously DS9 focused, but not Virtual TrekCon. They've included everything. So I didn't know how much that played a part. But thank you, Linda, for that. All Star Trek groups across all social media, which is what I would have thought. And obviously the winners in many categories reflected that. Some of that was just our getting started chatter. And we did have a run there of a lot of DS9. I had no idea what we were going to come up for, how we would come up with any kind of halfway intelligent analysis. But there we go. We managed to get it done. Christoph, any news on international distribution of Paramount Plus beyond the Prodigy Nick news today? And I know you're mostly in the dark as we continue to ask. Yeah, you updated me. I'm still recuperating from being gone for a week and trying to get everything going and making sure today happened. So thanks for the news about Prodigy and Nick. But continue to ask and we'll get it out there. Hey, Joel. A rare Tuesday off from me. Glad I can join in. Longtime lurker. Well, thank you, man. Thank you. Glad to hear. Pipe up anytime. You may get sucked in even worse than normal. Yeah, and lurk around Trekland however you'd like to, too. Potentially, Cairo. It's just not a good time. People are way too overly sensitive that way. Yeah, Tobias, cognitive dissonance has been a thing with Star Trek and its various fandom factions since the 80s that I've been amazed at, but it's never, the rest of the world didn't care about it outside of our little circle of fandom until recently, until the Discovery pilot, when bots and trolls could make hay out of it and, throw that on the social disconnect pile or the trauma pile, as we were saying last week. Ah, Scott. You were pretty timid with your online Trek fandom for years, but finally came to TTL not long before the pandemic. Been a Dr. Trek admirer since the first edition of the Companion. Aw, thank you, sir. Thank you. Have I met Doug Jones? Do you know? I have met Doug Jones, and we've talked very briefly a couple of times, and twice I was supposed to be an interviewer live and virtually, and the situation fell through. So no, I've not interviewed Doug, not even had a drink with him backstage or in a green room Coke with him. So that's still on my to-do list. I have the last 3 or 4 years, my to-do list has gotten huge. But Doug's no stranger to everybody. I'm right now really busy. I'm so excited by the behind the scenes folks working on all the series now. And a lot of them are stuck up in Canada, despite what we can do with socials. But I've been, among everything else, and with things opening up, I've been focusing back on trying to get to know some of the creatives now and saddle them up, get them in line for Portal 47 and get them in line if they fit for the Trek Files. And I would just say, Cairo, you don't have to explain anything to anybody. This is a world where nuance lives and people aren't black and white. We're not in boxes, and we're still out. We can talk back and forth and even change minds still. So that's the way it's supposed to be. It used to be that you did a self inventory of what you thought and then found the people who agreed with you, not the other way around. So yes, hopefully. Mm. Okay. See, I wade into this whole political thing. Yeah. At peril, because I don't want to get off on that. It's important, but at the same time, I like to keep that in its arenas. But there's times when you have to say something. Yeah. And unfortunate Burman exceptions. No, okay. Calvin, I did not mean literally Thor Heyerdahl. I meant it's a now you Europeans are going to skewer me. It was a Scandinavian name, and it was meant to evoke a Viking ethnicity. And someone who's on Memory Alpha, I could do it right now and slow the show down, but the original character name for what became Khan was originally Scandinavian to evoke a Viking background. And somewhere in the rewrites, it was probably Gene Kuhn, but I'm not going to say it off the top of my head unless I've got facts in front of me. Someone in the rewrite, Dorothy or Gene Kuhn, made it Khan and made him a Sikh and went that direction with it to make it even more third worldy in the old parlance of third world, not European, in other words. See, this is what I've wondered, Christoph, the inspirational aspect, and clearly Discovery is inspirational for all of those who are caught up in the gender debate, the drive for gender recognition, for awareness. I don't know. Discover inspirational apart from the diversity is Picard in any way. You hear me often say, I say in 10, 20 years, how we look at these series. Now, at the time, I was very down on Voyager because I thought it was the poor show that started off great and then had to be watered down. And I wasn't even thinking about what an inspiration it would be for all little girls and all women. And that's a factor that's made me reevaluate it. But see, I mean, never say never. Never say never. 20 years from now, some aspect of our lives, some aspect of culture, of world events, something will reflect that. Something will be the Janeway's army of 20 and 30 years from now. And some aspect of even lower decks might be huge to a certain group of people. And it might be a very big certain group of people by then. Mm-hmm. Okay, Brian, the answer, that was about the James Blish. Yeah, part of that was just the disposability. They didn't even get paid for reruns past 2 reruns. Who's thinking about scripts for a disposable paperback book for this sci-fi show? No one's going to care. Exactly. I never called him Poppy Bush until the last years of it was I'd say Daddy Bush a lot, but it was, Bush the senior or whatever. Because to me he was George Bush, and then his son was W. So that was easy. Jim, you've been listening 3 years this September. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for popping up and popping off. Oh, yes, I'm not as used to doing this, but thank you, Linda. Happy birthday to Saniqua today, too. Happy Captain's Day. What's wrong with the other captains? Why weren't they all born on March 22nd? It would be so much more organized. There you go. It's at some point we'll have a handoff on the major celebration. Hey, Mary. Okay. Star Trek might have been political, but not partisan the way it is now. I feel very isolated as a conservative the way I never used to until recently. I understand Cairo's point well. Well, you always have Mary, I've found you to be very reasonable. See, here's the thing. When I was growing up, I never thought about people being party affiliation. As a teenager, as you're getting aware of the world, I was never aware of, I didn't think so much in Republican Democratic terms. It was kind of a moot point at that point where I was. And I didn't even think so much about liberal and conservative, where I viewed people as, are you open-minded or closed-minded? Are you open to taking in information all the time and even letting it affect you change your mind at times? Or being open to things now that weren't available or weren't known or weren't realized when you were a kid, maybe? Or are you closed-minded? Is your mind closed to new input? Are you going to live with the very same thing that you knew when you were 5 and 8 and 12 and 20 and 15? And to me, the world is a struggle between open-minded people who are open to taking in new awareness, much less new facts, new discoveries, and people who are closed-minded. And I think anybody who is in my stream today, Mary and Cairo, I think everybody that's here is to some degree not closed-minded, because there's you can take any group. It's kind of like you can always take any segment and cut it in half. You can keep cutting in half to infinity. I think you can always make a spectrum of people. No two people ever agree completely 100%. And that's just about being open to taking in information and having your sense organs not shut down. The worst thing is to be totally, the stick me. That's sad, and that's not going to lead to a 23rd century start. Whatever it looks like, that's not going to lead there. As Gene said, we will either poison the planet and kill ourselves, or we will blow ourselves up, and we won't reach that time. And 1966 Star Trek said, "Oh look, whatever they did, they made it." So, and 24th century. Now, there for a moment in the 33rd century, it was getting kind of close. And Cairo, there you go, pulling out pulling out the rug underneath me. We're going to assume that in the 23rd century that all these kind of issues have been resolved. I mean, you've still got the Stone Mountain Memorial there with the Confederate generals on it. So the Southern Mountain, it's amazing how much of this, yeah. is old cool stuff, and then you'll hear a new aspect. That's why I always say check your sources. But if it's something legit after you've come to that conclusion, don't ever assume everything is legit, and don't ever assume that you know the 10 degrees of anything. The day I found out that not only are certain words got racist beginnings, but a word as simple as gyp and gypsy, that gypsy itself was a racist, which made me feel bad for all the women named Gypsy in the Broadway play Gypsy and Gypsy Rose Lee, and that's a thing that has nothing to do with anything American. So there we go. It's an interesting world. We just have to keep our minds and eyes and ears open and keep assimilating and keep making judgments for ourselves and keep not getting sucked down a bad info wormhole. Because if that's how we progress, that's why we're not still worshiping Halley's Comet as a demon sign, or sucking or bleeding sick people for bad blood. I mean, we have to, whatever timbre the information is, we have to be aware of it. Because heaven forbid, the most banal science information was certainly taken as life and death religious dogma at times. Oh, look, it's distant origins on Voyager time. Yeah. But Kyra, I don't think anyone's going to carve anything on Mount Rushmore for a long time. For one thing, the rock is cracking, and they're having to repair what's up there. Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Oh, here we go. Here we go. A Star Trek question. Who do I think the Watcher's going to be? I'm thinking that it might be Laris's hubby. Can I just say something? I know we're designed to do this. I love watching Picard. I love what they're doing with the series. I have zero interest in guessing who the Watcher is. I care, and I will have an opinion when it's revealed. But right now, because every week in 6 or 7 more weeks, it'll all be moot. And I know that's part of it. That's part of it. I know. Here's where I'm old man on the lawn. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch other people guess. I might have an idea or 2 or 3, but the idea of spending time on this when it's going to be known in 5 or 6 weeks. Hey, I'm long time Larry. I take the long view of everything. So I don't know. Laris is, Shaban, who died. It could be Laris. It could be that guy who was 3 over in that second scene in that one show, that one episode. We'll see. Well, until they reset the clock, maybe it's Elnor. I don't know. About the time I finish pontificating on this, they'll tell us. I just think it's funny that it's the Watcher. That's just so pulpy comic. I don't know whether I'm thinking of the Watchmen, or I'm thinking of the Eye in The Great Gatsby. I don't know. I just there we go. You think that Discovery has lost the ability to weave political message into the plots? They've lost that because they don't do it at all, or because they overdo it? It's too on the nose. I'm not sure what you mean there, Zahir. But you still have hope, and Picard is fire. Wasn't Bajor basically Ukraine? Well, see, there was a I think that was Monolith former Yugoslavia. Actually, Bajor started off being kind of an Israeli-Palestinian issue, and also England, Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Nazi Germany and everybody. Nazi Germany and the Jews, Nazi Germany and anybody around it. But they intentionally kind of kept it vague. So it was made any bully fascist invader and its smaller, weaker neighbor who was taken advantage of, and then finally liberated, relieved over the course of history. But it was all designed. It was all unspooled before Yugoslavia, before the Balkan Wars. Stingray, how do you know about Molly Murphy's House of Ill Repute? Molly Murphy's House of Fine Repute in Oklahoma City. I did once. That was a big thing when that was open for us to get up to Oklahoma City to go there. I had a glass for a long time. And no, I didn't see anyone in Trek. We wouldn't have said cosplay then. I didn't see anybody in a Trek costume. I would have noticed that. It would have been after I had Trek awareness. And no, but how do you know about Molly Murphy's House of Fine Repute? That was a wacky theme restaurant, and Oklahoma City had it. That's what's even wackier. That's a question. Okay. Justin, thank you for asking, Justin. About the time we settle into work on it, something blows up in our face. Because it's really, right now, it's really a two-man team. And so I'm apologizing for the delays, and I'm apologizing for that to everyone who's been involved and potentially put some helpful money in. I appreciate that over the years. We're going to get there. There's no way this is starts over my dead body. That doesn't sound good. There's such a great plethora of documentaries in the works, and the documentary curve has gone up. It's not like the empty desert when I started this, but we are trying to turn the battleship around and get on with it. I had a plan that worked for about 9 months. We got a lot of progress done last year, and we need to get back to that. This is what I keep saying, Dwight. Viruses do not care. Captain Calvin, how could one tell a Star Trek equivalent of the people who are blocking the highways in Canada? There's probably been a story that's somewhat like that. Yeah. Maybe even the Mintakans, the proto-Vulcanoids who were well-meaningly but ill-advised, trying to alter the course of their colony once Picard was revealed. I'm not sure. That just popped in. I have to study that. Maybe that's a horrible example. Boy, Cairo, I'm so sorry that you were going to go to a karaoke bar and cancel because of the highest infection numbers since the start. I know. Very frustrating. Very frustrating. I'm hoping to see you, and I'm hoping you make it to Chicago too. And you're cruising in 2023. Yay, Jared. Okay. Going to see the re-release of The Wrath of Khan. I hope so. Oh, surely at some point. They're still in Canada. Have Robert Sawyer take a run at scripting something like that. We could, and we all know he's done a Star Trek script already, right? For Continues. All right. Okay, before we have any further to do, I'm going to show off what I wanted to do a little bit earlier. So this is episode 2. Well, I'll get back to the chat. I'm not going anywhere. But this is episode 250. And for maybe some of you were, but for those of you, because here's the thing. I was live. I retconned number 1 a little bit. I went out live to jump into the controversy that was enveloping burgeoning online Trek fandom in April 2017. And then after I finished it, I realized that maybe I should do this every week. And here's my every week thing I'd been thinking about doing. So at the beginning, you'll see just how far we've come. This was not planned as a debut, but it became the debut. And if I can work it, I'll even show you what happened. So I'm just going to show here. We're going to a little surprise. Boom. Just a little surprise here for those of you. Here's what the first week of what became Trekland Tuesdays Live look like. You ready? Hey, everybody. Welcome, Mother and Father Federation and all the ships at space. Welcome from deep inside Portal 47 here at Trekland HQ. No, it's just Larry.
Sorry I was a little late there, fumbling around with Facebook Live, all this pioneering stuff, although I know there's plenty of pros out there. I just wanted to jump on today, get some things off my desk. There's a lot going on. I know I've been a little out of it, working on Con of Wrath, finally editing, and my documentary, conofwrath.com, and working on Portal 47. But there's some things that have been going on, as usual, online. I talk about them a lot when I get interviewed or on podcasts, like with Chris at the Ready Room on Trek FM. Some of the links are in this post that I made today. But at the same time, it's getting exciting that we've been talking about upfronts lately, and then it took Trek Movie to remind me the other day that that's this week, and everybody should be watching for that. At the same time, a lot of the excitement around it is tempered by this good old tendency and good old fandom to the 10% that's just freaking out. Now, I know a lot of this is about people are frustrated and people are passionate. That's what you always say, right? You're passionate. But, I mean, we have history. It's like with everything else. It's like with our current events. We have a history. We can look back at other times. And, you know, with Star Trek, it's like, my God, the worst of all was the 10 years we didn't have anything but 3 flimsy little seasons of reruns trying to get a movie back the first time. Just establish the fact that Star Trek deserved to be back and could actually make some money for the people that need that to happen. But then, then the time before Next Generation, when it was really a naysayer, the time before the Wrath of Khan, when people actually leaked that Spock was going to be killed off, and did a huge marketing campaign in the era of, oh, look at us, we are empowered consumers, and did marketing studies to show Paramount how much they would lose in box office revenue and videotape rentals and licensing sales if they killed Spock off. I mean, it's all part of our history now. Same thing happened with Next Generation.
Okay, get the idea. That was handheld wobbly. I was hand-holding my wobbly iPhone there, and eventually would look at some issues and things, but hand scroll through. So that's a blast from the past. But let me see. I want to show you just a little bit. By the time I decide to make this a thing, here's what it looked like just a short time later.
Hey everybody. I know, it's impossible. Welcome to the debut of Trekland Tuesdays with Dr. Trek. Can you see it through the light? There it is. I know, seriously.
The door is open.
Flipping. We will work on all that. But, hey, this is going to be, believe it or not, the beginning of what I hope will be just a few minutes to jump in on Tuesdays and talk about what's been going on, because it seems like we're living in a faster and faster moving world. I know, shock. But even in Star Trek, I mean, we've had 12 years of being in the desert. Not used to this pace.
It's so 2017.
Like and sometimes I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Case in point, the last week, hard on the heels of the trailer coming out from CBS at the upfronts a couple of weeks ago, within the fandom realm, people debate about All Access, people debate the good, the bad, the canon, the whatever. But I don't know if we were quite ready for this sidebar coming in that's now been picked up by the mainstream media. Now, we're used to our little Trek world of media and blogs and everybody following along Star Trek. Discovery upping the game here has brought in all the sci-fi and geek blogs and media and websites. But, we've got the mainstream taking attention here because of this latest news story, and it's all about call them what you will. I mean, look, here's my friend Manu writing on the New Yorker, which of course is not.
Yes, it's the hold up the tablet.
The NewYorker.com
era
for alt-right trolls.
Okay, enough of that. Anyway, I just thought you guys would like a throwback to number one. Technically, it was retconned as number one, and then number two was labeled as that. And yeah, the first stab at a logo and all of that. Anyway, just throwing that out there to show you how baby steps everything in just the enormous amount of 5 years ago was. Yeah. So all the conventions and all the memes and everything of what I do here now has all evolved since then. Someday somebody will do the Wikipedia for Tuesdays Live, and this marks the first time that this was said and that was said, and all the little tripey taglines and everything. So I'm gonna dive back in now. Hope I didn't scare anybody away too much, blow anybody's minds. That was back when we were all totally on handheld wobbly. I was totally holding my camera up by hand before I had a little Gobi stand for the second one. Before I learned how to shut the door. Before I learned how to flip the camera. I think number 3, we have the camera flipped normally. Of course, I could fix that now, but why take away the charm? Let's see. Where were we? Yeah. So Captain Calvin into it last year. Okay. Yeah, the pandemic kind of messes with our brains. Yeah, Cairo, you were a 47er before you were following Tuesdays. Yes. Let me see. Cool. We'll look for you over there, Jared. Yay. Hi, Dave's Geek Trek Trivia Headspace. What is the date on the 4K TMP release? Another lurker wants to know. Hi, thank you for lurking and for not lurking. This just broke in the last 24 hours, and I was so busy watching the trailer, I didn't catch the release date. Has somebody, here I am. Somebody's going to put the date up there if it's out. I'm going to keep moving on, but I'm not so sure. It didn't. I was so thrilled to see that. Wow, to see that 4K trailer. It's amazing how to keep reinventing the motion picture. And if nobody comes up with it, we will get that to you. Thanks for coming out of the bubble though, and thanks for coming in on YouTube. I'm going to hope that you've subscribed over there. Let's see. Oh, that's that. How about we move along, Mr. Professional? Hey, Nathaniel, since the regular Saturday show has ended, how has the psych angle affected how I appreciate Trek? Well, I'm obviously not the real doctor in psychology, but I feel like I had an affinity for that. There's things that Ali has alerted me to, like how badly Esri counseled Garrick in her first go at it. But I think what really struck me is just how everybody reacted to it. Now, it would have been nice if we'd had 500 online with us. It might not have been so cozy, and our lifers would have appreciated the coziness. I would have felt like it would have been great to reach. I love hearing from random one-off people. We had a school teacher just the other day, or someone with a yoga class, who asked about using something that Ali had said. Is it okay to use that? And we're like, sure. I mean, he has a whole show. The Psych Show YouTube channel. He's been doing that for ages and has that. And he winds up as a talking head guest on shows and documentaries himself. I'd like to think I was kind of always open to that. If nothing else, just being around the block once or twice myself and raising a family, having extra, family, watching fandom types and so many personalities of work colleagues in news, covering people, watching Star Trek fandom evolve, boom, bust, just all the personalities of that. I'd like to think that's kind of kept me open to the psych angle, but I still enjoy learning new things and having a new, and every once in a while you could see my face when Ali would say something and I would, I can't think of it right off the top, but I know at least once a month he's come up with something or shared an insight that really blew me away. The same way that I know our Lifers audience was blown away. So yeah, we're we're bowing to the reality of daily life. We said we wouldn't do it forever. We had to find a stopping place, and we're not putting it on the shelf totally. We'll still be life support living at special, some of them live and some of them online. We're going to get that baby here first, though. Okay. Yes, Dwight. I hope that Rob Sawyer gets to write for one of the new iterations of Trek himself. And he's Toronto Canadian, so he's going to fit right in the quota system for hiring. So, yeah. And here's the thing. After Picard wraps, I'm not sure if Secret Hideout and if Paramount Plus, if they will apply for the tax credit. They've got a track record with the state. And heaven forbid the state does not mind showing off a high-profile series like a Star Trek. If there will be there was a stage in Hawaii. We think about the original Hawaii 5-0, but before that, there had been Hawaii and I and Surfside 6, which with the great crazy theme song. There'd been like a series had shot at those stages in Honolulu. Like whenever one would get canceled, they'd come up with a new show to film there. And it would be great if a new Star Trek was filmed, Section 31, the Academy show, who knows? But it would be great if there was at least some Star Trek still filmed in LA where God intended it to be made. Otherwise, they've just built the big facility there, and they've got an infrastructure set up there and a think tank, cozy group that's going to keep it ranking there. So so good on Bob if this happens. If something could happen, I'm not talking about anything in the works, but I hope, on the same token, I hope that something stays connected to the LA greater SoCal area here to keep at least one other Star Trek series filming, and get that California film tax credit. Right, exactly. And hi again. Oh, it's Christoph. Yeah, the 4K movies 1 to 6, but not the TMP redo. Right, which was the stumbling block that we've known about for 10 years. Do I have a favorite scene in the first 3? Oh, I haven't. I've only seen them once or twice. I haven't had time for it to really digest. Now you're going to make me think. This last week has been a real scatter shot of life. No, I can't think of a favorite. I had favorites. I enjoyed it all. I'm just going to say that until I can wade through a little bit more. Oh, there you go. Rob's got his writer's guild card, his WGA card. So there you go. Hey, Michael. Believe it or not, it is possible to be entertained by a political story that doesn't reflect one's personal views. No cognitive dissonance necessary. I can enjoy a good murder mystery without being pro-murder. Yeah. Although sometimes those really gory ones are. I'm kidding. That's true. No, it wasn't it was a Dwight, the Space Seed original name was not a historical character. It was not a historical character. Otherwise, Leif Erikson would have been a circa 1000 AD man. So no, it was a fictional name, but with that Scandinavian Nordic flavor. Hey. Yeah, Doug's at my old stomping grounds in Syphacon. Yes. Siphon's really growing. It's good. I'm so glad they're back live like everybody else is back live. It's coming up very quickly. I'll just say, if anybody's down that neck of the woods, Southwest Louisiana, or if you're not, get there. It's definitely growing. You say Lake Charles, Louisiana. Plus, Lake Charles has had a rough time the last 3 or 4 years. Pandemic, but also 2 hurricanes back to back. It's just been really rough. So I'm glad to see everybody bouncing back down there, and I hope to see them some year again. I really enjoyed my trips down there. Uh, so here, hey, in the 60s, were they concerned about genetic engineering going haywire? Well, I think there was some cautionary, maybe some cautionary sci-fi novels about that. Because look, Space Seed was born of that time. Space Seed was written in 1966. So yes, I mean there were when you say they, you mean the mass public, or do you mean some segment of thinkers and philosophers or science community who could see who were being paid, or that was their thing to think about? They had a spot where they could had this bandwidth to think about repercussions of science. I mean, we weren't real concerned about carbon burning. We weren't, oil, big oil, everything was cool. Plastics was the word in The Graduate, and that was petrochemical adding to the carbon wave. So much less in the 30s were they concerned about radioactivity and atomic energy and all the goodness of it without worrying about the underside, the downside of it. So I think there's always been a sliver that did. So I would say define they. Certainly not on a mass scale, I think, because people think genetic engineering. They're like, oh, we can correct birth defects in the womb, in utero. Ooh, how great would be no more, people born with disabilities or mental health issues. And then, of course, those would say, well, some of the most brilliant people in the world are those who were other talented. And there you go. Thank you. Kahn's original name was Harold Erickson. Well, maybe that's why they changed it. A little bit of reflection, and people never submit your first draft, everybody. Yeah, and if it had been Harold Erickson, would it really have been a standout performance by anyone? But now you're into the butterfly effect. Harold is so far down the chain there of the ripples. Will Toronto get to appear as itself on any Trek series filming there someday? Yes. My orb of time has already informed me that yes. In 2032, a Star Trek series will finally get to visit modern-day Toronto. And everyone in America will say, are we supposed to know these things? Okay, can I just say, who knows, Gamato horns and watching may be inspiring to people in the future. Can I just say that no one ever called a Magato or Magatu, but no one ever said Gamato. It was Gamato on the script page. No one ever said it in filming, whether it was because D couldn't say it or not. No one ever called it Gamato. It's a false thing. Now, you can go back and point that out as a piece of history, and you can, I don't know, did Blish's story by then call it a Gamato? You can do that, but no one ever in the first wave or 2 or 3 or 5 of fandom ever was confused about what the horned white ape was called. It was a Magato or a Magatu. The last vowel was the only difference. So very funny, Mike, in the Lower Decks bunch, dragging in the Gamato too. That's only with Memory Alpha falsely amplifying the reality of the day. Anyway, but you're right, Cairo. Maybe this will be inspiring to people in the future. You know what? I don't know. I don't want to jump into your life, Glenn, but I would say maybe you need a new notifier. Maybe you should check the batteries on that thing. Let's see. Okay, if you want to be literal, Nathaniel, aren't black and white opinionated? But I was talking about a world on our Earth, a mirror Earth, a parallel Earth, where people can still freely discuss ideas and opinions, and just like drops of water morphing along as new input is received. All righty. And this exactly, Cairo, is why no matter where your normal belief system is, it's shaped by your life and what you've been taught. But it shouldn't be, when we get into trouble is when people aren't good at doing this, and they're able to just swallow what somebody is force feeding them without doing their own investigation. Check the sources. Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't a thought unless you were a party activist, unless you worked in the party. Otherwise, and the big swing block in the middle tended to be a big swing block in the middle. Hey, Adam, glad you could join us. Late as well. Maybe you should check your notivator too. Yeah. But good to see you as well. Yes, Melanie, but who knew that until 5 or 6 or 8 years ago? Maybe you did. I'm not knocking that, but not even being European and to be gypped, I just, it had nothing to do with the famous stereotypes around being Jewish. So I not that I was looking up front, but it's one of those words that you don't know. So again, I feel badly for the people whose names were gypsy in total innocence, because it was kind of a woohoo, it's a bohemian type word. Yeah. Not something to be. Hitler sure had no problem identifying that group of people and putting them on the concentration camp list. Lots of groups of people were in concentration camps besides the Jews. Obviously, were the biggest. Gays, the Roma, go on down the line. Certain religious groups. That's nice to know, Dave. Thank you. Thank you for being a follower reader to the late 90s. Glenn, you are late to the party. What do I think about Virtual TrekCon 3 and the Lappy Awards? Yeah, they're okay. It was an awesome weekend. I was glad to be part of it at 2 different points. And the Lappy Awards were really incredible. Although I think by the time we finished our reaction show, we had some suggestions, but overall, we had some tweaks, some notes, and some suggested categories. Nothing about some, and the categories were voted on, so it's not like anybody was totally responsible for that. But I'm with the rest of our panel. I was kind of surprised once we got into it that there was nothing about scores, themes, or scores, or what have you. Thank you, Christoph. Let's see how we're doing here. There were a lot of good pieces. Yeah. It was great I've interviewed Dan many times, including back in the day, and we've had him on Portal 47, obviously, and interviewed him for the Improvised Generation fundraiser, the September 2020, that Aliza and I were co-hosts for. We had a wonderful tech gig, and it was fun to have Dan from that. That was right when his career book came out too. And who watches that watcher? Exactly, Cairo. See, I'm waiting for the hollow wall to fail. Right, the bird's nest. Or maybe the watcher is the guard. But what would the Guardian have done in 2024? Is Carl going to show up? Nice little side gig there for him. Let's see. Questions. Wait, Sophia's in? Did I miss Sophia? Oh, hi, Sophia. Welcome in from Portugal. I think a lot of people are enjoying Picard more this season. I don't know. I haven't heard anyone. I think a lot of people are like even, and some are more. I haven't heard anybody say, wow, Picard was so much better the first season. I haven't heard that. Maybe they're out there and they're just lurking. Maybe that's it. Yes. And Annie Wershing is nailing it as a new iteration of the Borg Queen. It's great to have a character. She's like a Doctor Who character. It can be played by different people because that's what the Borg Queen is all about. So yes, indeedy. Sophia, I'm always curious if you ever are engaging if you're making other Star Trek fans or finding them under the rocks around you, or just how isolated you are, or if you're doing something about that. Are you out there recruiting? Good mention. Thank you, Christoph, for doing this. Noah's Kickstarter for his type 1 diabetes documentary has 40 hours left to reach the second stretch goal. I will gladly boost that signal. And everybody can see the thank you for putting that in here back at the, what time was this? Back at the 1440 at the 240. Yeah, from 30 minutes ago. And the Bell riots. You're weighing in, Melanie, about that being a past political statement, a socio-political statement. Sadly, but true, Cairo. My hero, Will Rogers, has a famous speech where he went on to help before FDR, when Hoover was still president, but it was 2 years into the Depression. People were starving. Everything was about private sector relief and towns raising their own money to help the people in their town. And that was a plan that Will went on the radio to help boost and cheerlead for. But he had a very famous moment where he said, it's just pathetic. It's sad that we had, as he said, a nation that had more corn, more wheat, more money in the bank, more everything else than anyone in history could ever have imagined. And yet a fourth of the country was starving every night. He said, we're the first nation in the history of the world that ever went to the poorhouse in an automobile. And it's that same kind of feeling you're talking about here. How can we have this disparity? People of conscience of all faiths and all spectrums, is that something we should be working on now? So how many days until Strange New Worlds? It's May 5th. So we're at 6 weeks and counting. I know. Is it the great episodic savior of Star Trek? We'll see. Editing Gone of Wrath for 250 episodes. It's a 12-year project. It was always going to be 6 or 7 years. It's been the last 2 or 3 years that I've not been happy about. We're not a machine. We didn't go big. We went long. Oh, no. Did it echo? Did you have echo badly? Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay. All righty. See, I didn't test it. It just looked good here on my end. So I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry if the clips were really annoying back when I ran them. JR, thanks for keeping that same energy. It's us. It's us. Sock. I missed that. Okay, I've missed this. Yep, I had a lot of you folks join up at DST in 2018. Did we talk to the audiences? You mean like the chat? If I didn't have chat on that first live, I think I had it very soon after, because the oldsters here can tell you, I would literally have my phone up and I would be scrolling. Of course, you wouldn't see that, and my thumb wouldn't be on the screen either, which was always interesting to me. But I was thumbing on a screen this big, and I'd only get 2 or 3 at a time, and sometimes it would jump back, and I'd have to re-scroll back. It was crazy. And of course, even being on a stand, every time I did that, it would wobble a little bit. So that was that. That's that. What is the status of the Voyager documentary? Well, I won't speak for them, but it's bopping along. It'll be sometime next year when it's out. But they're doing great. They're going to film some. They're filming some at Chicago, I believe. Yeah. Oh, they took the trailer down. Huh. Okay. Release date is April 5th, first contact day. Well, maybe that won't be the final release day. Maybe that was an issue. Have I seen the leak Insta BTS behind the scenes for Strange New Worlds for season 2, which seems to have had a return of classic Klingons, both rough and smooth head? I don't know. I had a kind of a crazy week and weekend and Monday. Oh yes, almost fell through the V'ger set. Yes, because they had some of those cubist tops were reinforced and some weren't. They were just plastic, and some were made to and got lost and walk. It's like walking through a reverse landmine field. So, Ali, my gosh, coming to us all the way from Okinawa. I haven't seen Narda today, so you may be our first cross the date line person, Ali. It's good to see you too, and I will get back to you. Thank you for the letter the other day. I'll get on that. I will. I promise you. I'm a little saner now than I was all last week. Yes, and I know Dr. Ali appreciates that, Melanie. Yay. Yes, the Voyager doc is very much in the middle of it. Yes. And I appreciate that. Calvin. Captain. There you go. Yes, all the updates over VTC. Yes, Lolita was in the middle of a thing on Saturday afternoon, I think. Something. Okay. Well, I don't think you're alone here, Captain. I think a ton of people would follow. What, 7 and the Fenris Rangers? Yes, that's very true. Oh yeah, they'll want to keep the circle unbroken. I was talking, if what I think you're saying, I was talking about keeping one going here in California. Use the film tax credit. How are we doing here? You and me both. I kid about that. But yes, God did intend Star Trek to be made in LA, in So California. And I would not mind that either. It's been a little bit of a change for right now. There may be a little bit of a cultural chill on having outsiders come in and film in an industrial way over there. So we'll have to see about that. But I would too. It's so iconic, and I just can't hide it. I'll publish your correction, Christoph, for all those who were following. There we go. So long, Scott. Thank you for hanging in. Yes. We should get a proper Quester tape show. Well, it would. That would be interesting. The android looking for his creator in humanity. Yeah. A lot of people are all behind an Assignment Earth show, except now I think the BBC would sue to say it was Doctor Who. Not really, but basically a guy helping the people around him with a companion. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, Allie, sure, I'll tell you if even if it's duplicating, I will do it again. How do you go about brainstorming ideas for panel presentations for a convention? You'd love to hear my thoughts on how you narrow down topics or seek up. Oh, well, it's not rocket science. I mean, sometimes I try to have panel ideas that are they're meant to be open ended. But if it's a specific topic, I try to figure out something that's going to be, I try to look around the landscape and see if there's something that's been controversial with no reason to be controversial, like bring that in, or something that's a sincere difference of opinion. Nothing is political. It's just some people happen to think this way and some people happen to think that way, and have that be a debate. Or you have an open-ended topic and just let people talk about. I mean, you can go or find a niche, find some aspect of science or sociology or whatever. And if you've got access to, if you've got access to celebrities, you could do something like I had the science advisors panel during crackdown, during lockdown. So yeah, you sounds like you may be paralyzed with the blank piece of paper on your panel submission form or your panel list. But I would think of the things that interest you, that you want to talk about a lot, and that you have friends or that you think you can reach out to, people with some amount of cred. Otherwise, if it's just four fans sitting around yapping, you could go down to the bar and do that. But hopefully you can find someone or something that elevates it a little bit, especially if you've got to get it approved, if you've got to pitch it and have it approved by someone. But I would just say, look at what you enjoy talking about, or when you look at the landscape of discussion around you globally or just in your neck of the woods there, I would say, what is it that you find yourself talking about a lot? Or what is it you sit back and you read and you go, oh, don't they know this, and this? And not that it's going to be like necessarily a soapbox. People don't like to be yelled at for 45 minutes, maybe. But if there's if you can find different, or you can get people to look at something in a new light or bring some new context to something. Again, it doesn't have to be an issue like people are going to debate it. It can be layers of discovery. It can be layers of content. Did you know? Did you know? And maybe you have people who are out of the box panelists. If something touches on sociology or some aspect of science, and there's 14, biology or psychology or physics, meteorology. I mean, if there's something that's an out of the box person and you find somebody from that out of the box field who happens to be a Trek fan, or who is at least amenable to being, that's some texture. That's some texture for your panel. So, and as far as finding partners, I look for my friends, and maybe I've come up with the idea with them in mind, colleagues, or I see people that I'd like to get to know. And sometimes if you invite them to be on a panel and they're able to do it, it's a great way to make new friends and colleagues and connections. So, wow. There should be a panel about coming up with panels. Was that any help at all? But no worries. That did not come up earlier in the hour. Yes. Harold Erickson sounds like a great name for a librarian. I know. If only they had changed it. Mm-hmm. Or a character in the librarian show. Absolutely. Call it Mogatu or something. Let's see. Yeah, Tobias, this bugs me. Apparently, this is the thing now. That's TV today. It's like it's like Roman numerals on sequel movies went out of style, and it's gauche now, and it's so 70s and 80s. So yeah, it's like movies that used to have all the credits up front, and now the credits are all at the back, and now even the opening star credits are at the back, and now movies just plunge in. You barely get the studio marquee, and then bang, they're into it. So it's like trends come and go, and it's what everybody does. And I know. I love the fact that Mike wanted that echo of next gen even. And I was hoping Prodigy. Doesn't Prodigy have this? Prodigy has the series title out. So maybe it's an animation thing. It's how they get away with it. But I so wish Strange New Worlds would put the episode titles out front. It's really going to drive people crazy. I'll bet you at some point, 47 years from now, on the 15th iteration of home-owned media, somebody will remaster Discovery and Picard and put episode titles in the front. I'm just saying. That'll be part of the CCCCCCGI. The Pink Ray 2000K revolution. Yeah. I don't know. Is it the end of the chat knocking on the door? We'll see. We'll see. On the chat room's door. Yeah. I hope so. Okay. Looking. Dom DeLuise, really? Was the Watcher Guinan? Could be. Yeah, the term squaw is on its way out. There's a huge federal panel that's looking to take squaw out of everything. So Squaw Valley. Yes. Yeah, all of that. That's what awareness does. I had a feeling that was you coming in from yeah. Oh, sorry. No Trek fans under any rock. Well, hang in there. You've got us and everybody else you can meet up with online. Yes. Yeah, I'll have to experiment with that. Sorry. So it wasn't quite as impactful. You got the visual, huh? I have to figure out how to do that without having the sound jeopardized. I'll have to test that out. Because if we ever want to show video clips again, that's the way to do it in Restream, and I might want to do that. That's part of what Building 2022 was supposed to be about. No. Icheb will be back. That was way too fast and abrupt. Tasha got much bigger send-off for her, and that was pathetic. The echo sounded kind of cool. I think that was up to taste, probably. I think restoring history will restore Elnor as well. Right. Thank you, Stephen. I will check that out. That's interesting. But the fanboys and girls are running things now, so people are getting pretty much able to do what they want to do. We will see. Oh, one of these situations. The actor in episode 1 of season 2 posted the pic on his Instagram and then took it down, just like the original Klingons on Discovery was an extra that posted. You remember that? Could be Cairo. That was the ticking clock, or that was the real inspiration. Drexsphere posted the leak pic if anyone wants to see it. What is the etymology of Qawat Malat? Sounds specifically like Power Nation in Urdu, but I doubt that's it. That's an interesting question. I do not know. We'll have to find it, because I think Mark Okran was doing some consulting on some of the languages on one of the new series. I have to go back and see that. Yes. Oh, yes. Season 2's been filming for a while, for a month or two, I think. My goodness. I'm sure Allie appreciates that, Melanie. Okay. Okay. Well, not for a while anyway. I've missed some of the last ones. I can say Linderstrasse. Unter den Linden? Are we talking Berlin? Is that what it is? Hey, JRR, what alien species from original series do you want to see more of in newer Trek? Okay, JRR24, maybe you haven't been around Trekland for very long, but I will just say it was awesome when the Andorians got their due in Enterprise, and now again, who's the founding member of the Federation that no one knows anything about? Yeah, it is hashtag time for Teller Prime. Let's see. But there are others too. There are others as well. Okay, you beat me to it then. There you go. Yes. And I said Andorians and Tellarites in the same breath for years, but then they got their breakthrough. Although I want to see animatronic RC controlled antennas on Andorians again. Maybe that was something that went out. Maybe there was a big radiological burst and all the Andorians lost the ability to emote with their antenna. Thank you, Stephen. I thought Prodigy had a title card. Yes. Very true. Not every real life death has a screenwriter behind it. Sometimes it's just, and that's it. Not everybody gets a death scene. Yeah. It was, you think it was the same extra that posted it? That's funny. It was Toronto. Those Toronto extras, you got to watch them. Make them sign that NDA 3 times. Yeah. Thank you, Jared. The end of the chat is near. Oh yes, Melanie. We're global. That's why I do this at this time. Oh yes, and I love it so much. I get pointed up on the globalness there, the globality. Oh, Lindenstrasse was a German soap opera. Okay, thank you, Captain Calvin. So not Unter den Linden. Okay. Yes, Susan, and hi, Susan. Coatmalat was apparently a group of, that was in canon. What they're saying was there a real life source of the wording? Like Daemon was, I think, in one of the Arabic or Indo-Arabic languages, name for a ship captain. So they would borrow that. The Denobulans, although that's Enterprise, that would be a good thing. We saw 2 Denobulans on lower decks. It was a throwaway tag moment, but there we go. Guess what, gang? I think we're at the end of the chat. So I hope that was an exciting enough episode 250 for everybody. We really are at the end of the chat. Thank you. We'll keep tweaking that showing video. I was going to try to spring it on everybody. I was so excited to see that it appeared to work here that maybe I need to mute me before I do that, and that would take care of it, because it shows as 2 languages. In any case, I hope you enjoyed at least the look. And hey, that is on the Facebook archive. You have to go and dig for it, but maybe I'll post the links and let you all watch those. And Scott can help me. We're going to get some more historic video out, and maybe snippets, not the whole shows, but some snippets out and get them out. So again, thanks everybody for joining me for 250 episodes. Thanks for coming back after last week. Thanks for hanging in. I've got, I want to thank everybody. And first off, I want to thank all of our Patreons. Whoa, I need to get up closer. Yeah. Yeah. Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, and Marie Siegel, Keith Rombach, Justin Porteous, Nathaniel Robinson, and Blaze K. A lot of you were here with us today. Thank you. And especially our live wires. Rusty Harold, Hubbard, Gun Johnson, Robert McLean, Alan Hoensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, Guy Kevin Lundstrom, sorry, Gay, and Casey Shafsky. I thank you, Gabe, for being our most recent Patreon in the list, and I promise I'll never do that again. Thanks, everybody. If you want to jump in on our Patreon, it's very simple. It's just $5 and $10 a month. I keep it simple that way. It's patreon.com/Trekland Live. We are building things out. I've only got the one live stream now to focus on. So that's hopefully a little bit more time and energy going there. Yes. I love that. And of course, this week we got the Trek Files over on Facebook or at podcast.roddenberry.com. So many mission log expansions covering all the shows, Prodigy, and one for the Orville actually happening. So Roddenberry podcasts are busting wide open. Yeah, you can find us there and our documents of the week. Not everybody gives you homework like we do. And this week we go talk about that chestnut, the Prime Directive, with our space lawyer friend, Mickley Carroll. So go over and check that out. It's up today. Here's where I would normally say Life Support Live. But for the first time, there is no new Life Support Live coming anytime soon. But I'll let you know that the archive is still up. Our Facebook page is still up. Maybe I should just instead of ignoring it, maybe I should retool this to say, check out the page, the community, the Discord, and the Facebook. And as he just announced, Jared is going to do a Zoomy chatty thing for all the lifers, for all the veterans. That's coming up on April 9th. I'll have to retool that. But feel free to go back and look at the archive. It's also the first 50 episodes so far are podcast audio friendly. So there's that today too. Same token, we've been talking about Virtual TrekCon 3. All the archived things are up on YouTube, including the after party is at Roddenberry at least, and it may be on the Virtual TrekCon channel by now. So not too late to go back. It's all there. They may be adding up some of the later panels right now at the moment, but it will all be there. It was some great entertainment, some wonderful moments. A lot of celebs came by. It was great. It was really a good thing. And once again, on the Trekland Treks Tour, Geek Nation Tours, which I'm affiliated with, Terrace and I are going to offer this Valley of Fire Kirk Memorial Tour if you're headed out for Vegas in August on Con Eve Day, Wednesday the 24th. And don't worry, you'll be back in time to rest up. We'll get out in the heat and get back. We leave at 7 a.m., so you want to be there Tuesday night. Or come right off the plane if you had a red eye. Come right on over. We're leaving at 7 in the morning to get out and back before it's heat. But even then, we'll be back in plenty of time for the Con Eve landing party that night, same as always. Everything at Bally's, though, instead of Rio. So check it out at geeknationtours.com. There's links at my site and page, too. And then you want to stay tuned. You want to get this on your calendar. Save the date. The weekend before Vegas in L.A., August 20th and 21st. It's postponed from last year. The Great Birds Origins Tour with me, 2 days with me around L.A. You can come from wherever you need to. We'll be leaving from the Hollywood Roosevelt both days, and the Hollywood Roosevelt is going to be our guest hotel with the cut rate. So get in touch with me, Larry at LarryNemechek.com. Click in here below or come over, get me on Twitter. We'll be glad to do that while we're working on the page infrastructure, but it's all going to be up within the next week or so. I wanted to get the word out now. There will also be an LA Away Days on the day before the cruise debuts next February. More is coming on that, but that's in the pipeline. And of course, I'll be open to do custom Trekland Treks tours with folks a day or two before and after as well. Happy 250. Things have changed a lot since that first one. We even got a little soapbox in about what's going on. Kind of looking at maybe taking a wider stance on a controversy from the moment, but Discovery's done. We've got Picard to look forward to. People seem to be excited. And yes, it's a great time in Trek world. And it's a great time in Trekland too. So everybody, till next Tuesday, or for your Portales tomorrow night, right? Tomorrow day and night. Stay healthy. please do all the things. Stay woke. Check your sources. And do your investigation on when you hear new information. Because overall, I just want you to trek well, everybody. Thanks so much.